Hey, hi, hello, welcome to episode 100. That's right, 100. That's pretty crazy. Of Trail Society, produced by Freetrail, brought to you by Rabbit. I'm Corrine Malcolm.
I'm Keely Henninger.
And I'm Hillary Allen.
Keely, I was gonna say, I know that last time we talked, you were covered in poison oak still. So I guess we need a poison oak update, but also like a recovery update because I did see that you got out for some really awesome long runs over the weekend. So I would love to hear about how the Post Canyons Western States block is kicking off.
Poison oak is still lingering, but I'm off steroids just because I was getting some weird side effects. So I think it'll linger a little longer than it would if I was on them for 3 weeks or something. But yeah, I was like, I can't do these anymore. But it's not horrible. It's just annoying. And yeah, recovery, I feel really good. But I took a super chill 2 weeks before this weekend, basically. After the run or after the canyons, I think I ran, you know, 3 or 4 times the next week for less than 45 minutes each time. And then the next week really only ran 3 days. So I had multiple off days, really focused on sleeping, focused on trying to recover, and get caught up with school. So that was helpful to actually have a lot of time. And yeah, then kind of kicked off this block on Saturday. So I had a nice almost 2 full weeks off from like proper training. It was just running super easy, short stuff, which was amazing. Highly recommend. All my athletes out there who push me on not recovering after long runs, please take note. It works. I promise. Like you need to recover. 100K is really, really far. And so, yeah, I felt super good on the weekend. Yeah, I had two like 4.5 hour runs back to back and got out in the gorge, which is amazing. So got a lot of climbing on Saturday and then Sunday stayed local just because Sundays I have to do a ton of studying too. So had to, stay local and opportunize my time and not drive an hour and a half to get out somewhere. But it was awesome. Felt really good. Had company for all of my runs. So that's a big
Yay.
fan, like or a big help, to get out and have company. So that was fun.
Yeah, I loved your shout outs to the crew that made your longer of the two long runs happen this weekend. And like serendipitously on Sunday, Stephen and I ran into Caitlin and Ellie Gerben. And so I got to like drop Stephen off at one of our cars and then he drove home and I to work in the garden because he's on call. And then I like finished out Ellie and Caitlin's long run with them. And then I added on more after they went home. So it was like, oh, the company's good.
It's really
We dig
nice.
it. Hillary, I got to see you at Tiger Claw,
Yeah.
which was awesome. How are you feeling after a whirlwind Seattle weekend?
Oh man, it was so good to see you and just to be there. I mean, obviously I was in Seattle not too long ago, but I didn't get to stay there too long. And it was gorgeous weather. I was joking that it was like nicer in Seattle than it was in Colorado, but super sunny and yeah, it was great. Packed in as much as I possibly could to that weekend and had a great time. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll recap Tiger Claw a little bit more in just a second, but you were out there in part because Tiger Claw, the title sponsor for that event now moving forward is Rabbit, our partner on the podcast this year. So it's kind of fun to see their crew out there,
Yeah.
really getting the feel for Tiger Claw and the race that it is. So it was fun to be on the ground with them. We got to see some new product that they just launched in collaboration with Ginger Runner or Ethan Newberry, who is the race director, along with his wife and partner and everything, Kim. So we got to see that product in person, a nice, cool green technical short, like a dual compression kind of two in one. So like a little bit of a longer liner, the short on top, pockets kind of everywhere. But the coolest thing, and I'm really curious to give it a test out, is that they have these like pockets on the back that sit into the short that are at like a 45-degree angle that are tapered that would allow you to carry 500 milliliter soft flasks kind of just below the belt line, but within this compression material, including like just like your packs have that little kind of like hoarding that keeps the water bottle in, the soft flask in. The shorts have those as well. So I'm curious to like load up a pair of these and go for a run and see how they feel. But it was a very technical trail short, and those are now over on the website at Venture Collection, at the Run and Rabbit website. And so if you guys want to try those out or any of the product out that they have coming out this summer, you can go over to Run and Rabbit and use Trail Bunny 10 as your 10% off code for the rest of this month. And then we'll get you a new code for June. So again, go over to Run and Rabbit and pick something up today and use Trail Bunny 10. We got to recap this race weekend a little bit because it was fast and furious, but also really cool to have everyone there in person. And you mentioned it was a full trip that you squeezed a lot in over a matter of just a couple days. You kicked it off with a group run over at Brooks HQ on Thursday evening before I got to see you Friday morning as we were the official co-hosts of the shakeout run that morning. It was a rabbit slash tiger claw slash Trail Society collaboration. And I'm just wondering what you thought of the pre-race festivities in town.
Yeah, I mean, it was super cool to be able to, obviously, since Brooks is based in Seattle, to make it over there. It was a really cool event at their Brooks Trailhead store underneath their like the HQ offices. So it was a really cool turnout there. Tried to encourage some people to head on over to try out the ascent and like the race. I got a couple people, at least one I did recognize who came over to the shakeout run, so that was great. But yeah, I mean, it was the first time ever I've met any of the rabbit team, so that was awesome. And then Ethan, I've obviously known of him for a while, but hadn't had a chance to meet him in person. But I mean, the Seattle area has always boasted a great community of trail runners, and yeah, it was super cool to just be involved and to have Corinne show us on our, on her local trails. So, but yeah, I mean, honestly, because we'll get into this later, but doing so had to shake out run on Friday, and then there's like the Ascent Friday evening, and then the 50K on Saturday. So it's kind of like a lot of running. But thankfully it was slow leading up to the Ascent that night.
Yeah, it was called The Big Cat, is what you took part in, where you doubled the ascent and the 50K. Keely, we're going to have to get you out here next year for Tiger Claw. I mean, pending your schedule and your craziness, but it's a super cool race. So tell us a little bit more about the Big Cat, which is the double, and how that was like how it flowed for your weekend.
Yeah, so I think just after Terra this year, personally, I like to have different themes for the year of racing. I think last year was more of like the doubles of bike races and running races because I was trying to finish up doing Unbound 200 for the fifth year in a row. But this year, it's like now after Terra, it's like the doubles.
The year
So
of multis, the summer of multis is what I'm calling it
I
for
guess
you.
yeah. So it's like I wanted to do some shorter distance ultras. Like I didn't I wanted to kind of go down in distance after Terra and kind of this ankle stuff. So I thought, okay, well, 50K is still pretty far. And, then racing a VK before that could also make it quite interesting and like have definitely like the ultra feel or like a longer ultra feel. So that's kind of how I've queued up the rest of my season this year. So that when Tiger Claw, they had the option of doing the ascent the night before. It's actually really interesting because it's a 6 p.m. start. So it's like you finish Friday night, Friday work, and then you come to the trailhead, you go for your run, but this time it's a race. And there's this iconic ascent that I've always heard the Brooks Trail athletes talk about that live in the area in Seattle. Corinne included, section line trail. It's just straight up. It's super steep, 2.5 miles, 2,500 feet of gain. And that was our race. And like I said, started at 6 p.m. And then the Big Cat is the double. So then you do the 50K the next day, which is, starts at 7 a.m. Then you have to climb 3 times up this Tiger Mountain, kind of a steeper version of not quite what is it? The what I
Cable
just
line, yeah.
cable line, not quite that one, but akin to that. It's very steep. So that's also one of the routes up the mountain. Take the same descent down every time, repeat 3 times, and then run back into Issaquah. And so, yeah, that's what I had on the docket for Friday and Saturday.
So we have to talk about two things. First,
Yeah,
we're going to talk about the ascent and a little, maybe a small oopsie that
yeah,
you experienced out there. And then we'll talk
yeah.
about like the choose your own adventure like ness of Tiger Claw. And then we're going to
Mhm.
jump into some more fun, some fun things, a little bit of news, and then a Society Slam filled episode. So I saw from the photos, because I was not out there for the ascent, that, you came over the top of the first bump, the most of the climbing
Yeah,
in first, but ended up finishing third. And
yeah,
rumor has it that you did not realize that was not the top, that you had to like you had to descend a little bit and then climb up to the final actual finish line of the
yeah.
race. What the heck happened?
Oh yeah, basically that. So like come up and then I'm like, oh yeah, sweet. And then Claire, who's like behind me, she's like left. And then I'm like, okay. And then I realized like we're going downhill and I see the actual top. So I mean it was fine. It was just like a little bit of like a mental hiccup. I think I kind of like maybe let off the gas a little bit. And then the last section, it was like there was a lot of power hiking, and I'm like obviously pretty strong at that. And I think I was putting a little bit of a gap, and then there was more of like a runnable climb, and I think I had mentally been like, oh shit, like trying to kind of get back into it. And so by the end, the top three were only separated by 11 seconds. So it was kind of like it was really close, but it was just kind of funny. I was like kind of laughing at myself, and I'm like thinking, I'm like, ah, good to know for the real top for during the race tomorrow. But all in all three of us actually broke the course record from that ascent. So we all,
Sick.
I think maybe all three of us, we all had little CRs on that section of trail. Like I think mine was the lower and middle part because I kind of started a little bit back and then like caught up to them. And then Claire and or Isabel have like the times at the very top section. So it's kind of cool to like share a little bit of it all in there. And like I said, good to know for race day where the actual top and aid station would be.
Yeah, so you finish it, you tag the top of Tiger 2
Yep.
in the race, which is where the upper aid station is set up. So there's a lower aid station at the High Point parking lot, an upper aid station up top, and then you mentioned you do three different loops. And
Mhm.
so there's a yellow loop, a white loop, and a pink loop, and each loop takes a different way up to the top of Tiger 2, and then you take the same way down each time before running back across Tiger Mountain along the flats to get over to the Issaquah Community Center where you start and finish. It's got kind of like a little bit of a flat start and finish with a bunch of climbing, 8,500 feet, I think, almost 9K climbing packed into the middle, meat and potatoes section of the race. But
Yeah.
what's cool is that Tiger Claw has like a choose your own adventure element to it. Can you just like walk us through that and like how that experience was as far as like there not being a totally set race course essentially for part of it?
Yeah. Which is honestly what has drawn me to it. I mean, ever since joining the Brooks team, I've heard about this race through Brian Bark, who makes all the genius shoes over there, and Caitlin and Ellie Gerben. Yeah, so they were telling me about it because I know Caitlin's done the race, so is Ellie, and just and Caitlin Jacobson, who also lives over there. So and Christina Randrup, who's out now on the team. So I've heard about it, but I always liked this idea of kind of like, okay, so what are your strengths as a runner? And looking at the loops and like the grades and like knowing about it, like what would you want to do first? And so there's three routes up this mountain and then a designated descending route. And but you have to do all three. Any order doesn't matter, but you have to tick all three, come down that same descent, and then run back into town. And so uh just looking at the climbing, like one of them is pretty long. It's almost like 10 miles the whole loop, including the descent, and it's about 2,900 feet of climbing. The other loop is a little bit less, so it's maybe closer to 8 miles, 7.5, and it's about 2,600 feet of climbing. And then the last one is the steepest. So kind of like I said, like kind of like cable line, where it's 2,300 feet of climbing, but the loop itself, including the down, is 5.5. So you kind of get to see, okay, like where are your strengths? What would you like to get done sooner rather than later? I have run, and they're designated colors. So that the steepest one is white, second steepest is pink, and then the longest yet the less steep is yellow. And I have run part of this yellow loop before, and it's kind of there's a little bit of descending on it too. And I wanted to start with that one because it's just a little bit it's longer and it's a bit sloggy on like tired legs. And I knew that because of my strong power hiking, I think no matter like later in a race, I think I would be able to do that even on tired legs, still pretty fast at the end. So that one I chose to be the last loop.
I just think it's
Um,
cool because you could be like running with people that you're competing with directly, or all of a sudden it's like if you're not all in the same loop, you kind
yeah.
of don't know until you guys are headed back to Issaquah
Right,
effectively.
and that was kind of cool because you didn't really know which loop people were doing. And also what I like about it is like always in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna see how I feel. Right. If you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, my legs are like dead, or like you can kind of switch it up on the fly. So you can kind of know, and I know people did that too. Like there's a bunch of people I was running with at the beginning. You have about 4.5 miles of like undulating terrain until you get to the to pick your loop portion. And they're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna see how I feel when I get there. And I'm like, okay. And so that was the thing with racing. Maria Dalzot, she was also racing the big cat, and she was behind me in the ascent by a few minutes, but obviously she's a strong runner. And so I was, like seeing, I don't know, I didn't know what route she was taking. And so we kind of didn't really know where we were all day, even though you could like scan your QR codes at the top of each climb. And then once you reach the descent and the aid station. But it wasn't until the last climb that I figured out where she was, and I like summited and I was descending and I saw her and I'm like, oh crap. And I
I
think
gotta
she,
go.
yeah, she was like only 2 minutes. And I don't know if because I was like running by myself the whole time. I felt like I was moving well, but I think she kind of like, she maybe, it's kind of sometimes like fun to run from the back. So you're like, oh, okay, I'm only this far back. I'm going to surge. And if you're at the front, you're like, I don't know, I've still got to keep going. And you might like slow down. So maybe that's what happened. And then I had the flashback because it was on that part of the like the top climb where I had kind of like let up mentally from the ascent and the previous night. And so I was just like, not today. Like
I
I
gotta
was like,
go.
and I
Yeah,
kept on saying in my head, last lap, best lap. And I told myself, I don't need quads. And I just tried to run my fastest time on the last descent, which definitely worked. My quads are really trash now. And but no, it was super fun. And then, there's some flat sections in the last like 3.5 miles to the end, a little bit of up and some like flat sections. So I was really trying to focus on, pushing there because I've been doing some more flat stuff. And yeah, it was really fun to like have a friendly, like to actually like have a race, at the end of it. And at the end, I think I finished like 4.5 minutes ahead. So
yeah, it was
Maria,
close.
we were talking about it at the end, and she's like, yeah, she's like, I was pushing, I was trying to catch you. And so yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah. It's cool. So Maria is prepping for Lavaredo. That's her
Yeah.
next event. She's doing Lavaredo and UTMB this year. It'll be her first attempt at UTMB, the big loop. She's got a great attitude about it. She wants to,
Yep.
it's kind of like her go and see it year
Yep.
before like a go and race it year. And
Yeah.
then what is your next multi?
Right. And so I was telling her about this too. So my next one would be Broken Arrow. So this is perfect to do the Triple Crown. And
Nice.
so yeah, so I'll do the Triple Crown and then I'm gonna do a race in Corsica. But so how I'm seeing it is like the Triple Crown's obviously a triple. And then in like a week and a half, I'll do like a 40-mile race. And I figured that like back to back, kind of close succession of racing is like another built-in double because my ultimate goal this year will be the Squamish 50-50.
Cool.
So yeah, that's kind of how I've planned out the season.
I love it.
Yeah,
That's super
it'll be
exciting.
fun. New races, new experiences.
Nice. I love it. Well, we'll be following along. I'll be out there for Broken Arrow. So, and then Keely
Woohoo.
will be out there shortly thereafter to throw down in 100-mile race. So the
Yeah.
whole squad will effectively be in Olympic Valley right around the same time, which will be super cool. Keely, we had mentioned on a previous episode some, the 4-minute mile barrier for women and the science that was coming out of it. And you got some mind, so maybe we're mind readers. You want to update folks on what's happening?
Yeah, so me and Corinne, we were reading a paper published by Shalea Kipp and Roger Crom and a bunch of other people who do a lot in the biomechanics space, and they did a lot with the Breaking Two project with Elliot Kipchoge to run the sub 2 hour marathon. They published a piece that we talked about a couple months ago around a woman breaking the 4-minute mile barrier, and they were talking about all the logistics around that and how with the right amount of pacers and the right drafting and all this stuff that potentially someone could break the 4-minute mile, and who they named in their paper was Faith Kipyegon. And lo and behold, about a month later, an article comes out of ESPN where they've interviewed the NSRL, which is where I used to work, and also quoted this paper, basically talking about how Nike is now creating a new project dubbed Breaking 4 instead of Breaking 2, which is awesome. And me and some of my old colleagues, we used to try to push this kind of stuff all the time. So I'm so stoked they're finally doing it. But yeah, they're trying to basically help her break 4 minutes in the mile. She has the current world record in the mile at 4:07:64. And when she did set that, she set it by over 5 seconds. So she was hauling and she, put a huge dent in the previous record. And so Obviously, she is the favorite to be able to break 4 minutes. The cool thing about this too, aside from us being mind readers, is that when she was asked about why she wanted to do it, she acknowledged that it was obviously really cool to break 4 minutes, the 4 minute barrier, but also because she wanted to create more confidence and ambition for women and girls, so that they can also like dream their own dreams. So super cool stuff. And yeah, I think we're a little bit of mind readers, but really cool to see.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen. They're targeting a date at the end of June, right?
I
Is it
believe
that? I think it's that
so.
soon. I think it's like
Mhm.
end of June, maybe in Paris.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, which will
Will
be
be
cool.
June 26th. So
Oh,
right around the
Western
same
States
time
Week.
as Western State.
We'll have lots
So
to
it'll be
celebrate.
good motivation. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah,
for all
it's
the women.
in Paris on June 26th. They'll be the breaking four.
Well, I know what we're doing that week. Pay-per-view. We'll figure out how to watch it. It's gonna be great. Um, that's so cool. I'm really excited that there's this big project centering female athletes at the highest level. That is
Hmm.
particularly sweet.
Yep, they're putting their money where their mouth is, which is cool to see.
Which is what we
Yeah.
need. Well, with today being the 100th episode, which feels crazy, I don't know
Woo.
how we made it here, but we have. Society Slam is something that we all love. It's how we end most of our episodes, and today it's going to be what we celebrate for this entire episode. So we've got a number of slams that you all submitted over the past week, and we're not going to get to all of them today, but we'll have to pull them into future episodes as well. And so to kick things off, we had a really nice one that went, what have you learned from each other or the listeners about yourselves and or running in the past 100 episodes? You can pick one
Oh
thing.
God.
I can go first. I can break the ice. So
Okay.
breaking the ice here, and I can do this because Danny Moreno is a listener. She tells me, Krim, when I miss you, I listen to the podcast and it's like we're hanging out. But it's this idea about it being cool to care. And I think that's something that we've all been living as well. And when I say it's cool to care, it's like it's cool to try hard and it's cool to put my effort into these things, including my athletics, including running, including my job, including what I'm excited about. It doesn't have to be laissez-faire. And what you guys have taught me as well is this kind of, we talk a lot about eating enough, right? And I think that that falls into the it's cool to care camp because while I think I have a really good relationship with food, I don't think I've always fueled my running as well as I can, as including like during the runs or right after runs or whatnot. I'm kind of like winging it a lot because winging it made me feel less like I had to care about running, but winging it wasn't good for me. So I think you all continuing to not harp, but to encourage me to eat enough always, and this idea about it being cool to care has been awesome.
Oh, I
Mhm.
love that. Keely,
What about you
where do you
guys?
want me to
Yeah,
go?
I can go. I think that I really like the constant reminder that change can be made in a small community faster than it can be made in a big community because I think sometimes I get really sad at the state of female athletes at lots of colleges and stuff when I still hear a lot of horror stories around not eating enough or injuries and all these things. But then we get, probably weekly messages from you guys reminding us that we're making like really small differences. And I think that's where you make the biggest change is the small community you're a part of. And so I like the weekly reminder that although big change is really hard, we can slowly chip away at small change in our small little lovely community of trail runners.
Oh,
I like
I
that
love
so
it.
much.
So the thing that I've learned, I mean, it's so hard to pick one thing because I feel like I love that all of us have our different area of expertise. So, I mean, I feel like I'm learning almost as much as, hopefully the listeners are learning. So I think it's great to be able to learn from each one of our expertise. But really, the biggest thing I think I've learned is that, all of us have something, that we're dealing with. We're all managing a bunch of different things, whether if it's our, all the jobs and things we do outside of running, which is a cool lead into the next question. But like who we are outside of running and trying to like crush it, it motivates me to be a better person. So I feel like learning what everyone else is juggling on a daily basis for us to put this stuff together is motivates me to show up and be my best and contribute. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, you alluded to this next question, and I pulled this up in part because I thought that they went well together. And I was like, I know Dylan Bowman did not submit this question, but it's a very free trail podcast question. that he likes to ask a lot, the like what makes you you, but they specifically said, who are each of you outside of running and your day job? What makes you you? Has anyone been thinking about that? Anyone know what makes them them?
What makes me me? I'm gonna say I'm a very curious person, I think first and foremost. I always ask the question why. And I just want to learn about whether it's like how I can push myself, like applied to running, push myself academically, learn about new people, new places. So yeah, just a very, very curious person, and that's like the common thread through everything.
It drives you. Keely, what about you?
That's a really hard question. I think that outside of running and our day job, which for me is school, which is 99% of my brain,
You're
I
like, I
think,
am textbook.
yeah. I am book. No, I think for me it's like I'm also like Hillary in the sense that I have like insatiable curiosity, and so I think that fuels a lot of what I do. But I think what I've been noticing more lately is that I am my community. And so whether that's the trail running community, my med school community, my friends, like I just think that I feel my best and I feel most excited when I am in my community and surrounded by all the people that I love and hanging out with them and doing things with them. So that I think what makes me the most.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Hmm.
I would say I'm curious, but I don't think that's what makes me me. I would think what makes me me is that I have this like total, not disregard, but this like obliviousness to what I should or shouldn't be able to do. That just like drives, I think, a lot of my forward action. Like I've never really gotten hung up in the like, why can't I do this thing? And I think that in part it's that like bleeds over into a lot of my life in this way where I don't seek out conflict by any means, but like I don't tolerate like bullshit, for example. And so it's like I kind of but there's no like hang up there with me being like, well, like how do I address this thing? I'm like, well, I've got to address the thing because it shouldn't be here
I
type of
love
thing.
that about you, Corinne.
So
It's like you're like
I'm
a
a no
bulldog.
nonsense.
Is that it right? No, I don't know. I just love that. I love that because it does. Yeah, I see that. It like goes into all of like your no BS approach to doing things well and doing
It
them right.
makes me teachers either loved me or hated me, and no one was lukewarm on
Oh.
me, and I am still that way as an adult, I think. So I apologize to all my previous teachers. Hopefully many of you didn't hate me. Um, okay, this is kind of a broader question. It's one that we've had similar questions before, but this one's really interesting, and I think we all have experienced something similar. And so it's a little bit about recovery, about the psychology of recovery, but also about like how we deal with that both like when it comes to dreams and goals, but also like body image and like how we feel about ourselves during those periods of non-exercise, let's say. So they write in, "Yay, love you guys and everything you talk about and your openness for starters. My question is about body image, confidence, and feeling enough have always been struggles of mine. I was finally starting to make progress when I found out I apparently have an old meniscus tear from a big mountain accident, and it needs surgery at the end of the month. I know I need to rest to recover, but what can I do to make the physical progress I want to keep making? It also is hard for me to wrap my brain around scrapping all the races I had planned for the summer and fall, especially when my husband is training for all the things I was planning on doing as well. Sending love and thanks for all you bring to this community." So it's kind of like a multi-prong, and we could take it in a bunch of different directions, I would say, as far as like, what you want to tell this individual, but essentially like has struggled with stuff about, like kind of in regards to this in the past, is like about to probably like need to take some rest and recovery depending on how meniscal surgery goes. 'Cause sometimes those recoveries are fast and sometimes they are not. And then yeah, like looking at maybe needing to take a longer period of time off.
I'll
Mhm.
tackle like I'll speak to the just the comparison thing a lot because I've dealt with that a lot with injuries, and I think it's okay to take a bit of like time and space. I know it's your husband, right? But like not like that, but I'm saying of like if you need to protect a little bit of your time of like for me it was, not having conversations like kind of revolve around that or being out of the house if it's like you don't want to be out of the house when he's getting ready to go run or come back, then maybe like read a book somewhere so that so you can kind of have your time and space. And I think that's completely okay. It's like set boundaries and figure out what it is that you need to kind of protect that mental space so you don't start feeling guilty or there's like any, resentment. And then also with the comparative thing, it's really hard. And I think really trying to journal about it or um, write things down. It's like, this is what I need right now in order to get to my goals. Like right now, it might be hard, but it's like that rest and recovery will help. That's what you need now in order to get to a long-term goal. So it's like I think about having the long-term goal in the back of my mind. Don't let go of that you want to run or like these goals that you have, but doing what you need to do today to get there, which in this moment means a bit of rest and recovery.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for a lot of athletes of mine who have issues with body image and are going into some sort of down cycle, whether it's me forcing them to stop running for a little bit or their body forcing them, is to remind them that energy is energy. And so, expending energy doing something else that's not running can also take away energy from recovering. And so I think trying to remind yourself that your job now is to get your body in the best space to recover from this surgery is probably the best way to at least try to reset your barometer with fueling and with being stagnant because your body needs the energy to recover. And so if we focus on body image or things that we think we need or we don't need, we're probably going to be in that energy deficit that our body does not need because our body needs to repair ourselves. And then I'd say something that I've learned is like, don't be too stubborn to ask for help from a professional. I've worked with many therapists during many, many low points in my life. And I think that they're really helpful, or they can be, especially if you find one that's really helpful. And so if you have, old issues in body image or eating disorders and confidence and all of these things, talking to someone who understands that could be really helpful, especially someone who's unbiased and doesn't know you, because like it's a really hard thing to tackle by yourself. And so, we all can try to say, do these things, but at the end of the day, it's really, really hard. And it's so much easier to fall back down the slippery slope than to stay out of it. And so, I would, find someone that you trust and maybe talk with them a little bit about it and let them help you through this really hard time. But yeah, to Hillary's point, like keep your goals on the horizon. Remember why you're recovering, why you're eating every day, why you're working with a therapist is so you can get back to what you love. But treat this as like your current job and don't skimp on it. Try to put yourself in the best scenario to succeed at this job. And as someone who's been injured many a times, I'm sending you all the positive vibes because I know it's not fun, but you can do it.
Yeah, and I would like to say like, oh, a meniscus surgery, like depending on like the degree of tear and what it is, if they clean it versus repair it, will like infer your recovery time. But recovery times are so that they're in flux, right? Like you might think they might say, yeah, you can start running again in 6 weeks, or it might be like, oh, you're going to be immobilized for 8 weeks, and then you're going to start working on range of motion, and then you're going to start doing those things. And so it's more about, in my mind, trying to focus on what you can do versus what you can't do. So it's like, oh, I can do PT. I can go sit in nature to get outside. I can, hand bike. I had meniscal surgery as a high schooler and I like swam. Swimming was something that I could do during that with a leg buoy. But it wasn't like I wasn't going to replace all the running I could be doing. It was like I went to like what kind of easy movement or what kind of easy exercise can I do? So, like for my mental health, but it wasn't about training or maintaining or building fitness during that time period. It was much more about just like continuing to get some form of easy movement in while I kind of worked my way through PTing post surgically. And the other piece of that puzzle, too, I really love Keely mentioning like working with someone on this, like being injured. We know the mental toll is massive. And so, like, I think for your relationship with running, for your relationship with your
Mhm.
body, for all those things and keeping all those things in balance and healthy, talking to someone's really important. And I think it's really normal, particularly when you're out for a very long time. Our bodies are constantly in flux, are constantly changing throughout the year, throughout injury cycles. It's really normal to not like where you're at. It's incredibly normal to get there. I've seen it with people with shoulder surgeries. I've seen it with my stress fractures. I've seen it with, we've all been there. It is normal, but having someone to talk to about it will make how you handle it, um,
Mhm.
how you respond to it, That's what's really important. It's okay to feel those things, but you got to be prepared to respond to them in an appropriate way.
Yeah, one thing I just thought of that one of my good friends uses as her mantra for different seasons, and this could be seasons of life that are thrown at you unexpectedly, so having to get meniscus surgery, or seasons in relation to the actual season where it's really cold and rainy and then it's really nice out. And she just really likes embracing whatever season she's in and
Mm.
acknowledging that the body will change based off the season to whatever feels most natural. If you're fueling it and just treating it normally, it will kind of gravitate towards what's perfect for that season. And so viewing this as your current season, like, could be kind of a fun shift of the mindset.
Yeah. And ultimately it'll be a blip. And that like reminds me of that
Yeah.
quote of like nothing in nature blooms year round. And
Hmm.
like just recognizing that you're
Yeah.
not blooming right now, and that's
Mhm.
okay. You'll get to bloom, but
Yeah. And you'll be
be
like the
kind to yourself.
prettiest tree out there.
You will be. You'll be the prettiest tree or flower or whatever plant you would like to identify with. Um, okay, we've got a fun little shout out, and it's actually one that we've gotten a lot of shout outs specifically for. And that was in regards to the episode we did on iron deficiency and anemia and iron supplementation. And this listener wrote in just a little shout out. Okay, I'm not one to message podcast hosts about content, but ever since I listened to your episode about iron deficiency in runners, I've been meaning to go get blood work done. I embarrassingly waited 3 months. I listened to it soon after it was released, but I did get my blood test done, and the results came back showing that I've got pretty low ferritin. I like sent through an entire training block January through April, thinking I was just losing fitness for no reason. It turns out advocating for myself using the knowledge y'all provided paid off, and I'm working with a hematologist and an RD to bring my iron levels back to normal. Thank you guys.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Like we've gotten a lot of these though. We've gotten a
Mhm.
lot of people that were like, "Oh my goodness, it's been
Mhm.
my iron this whole time." So
Yeah,
we're
it's
proud of you
really
guys.
important. You need enough buses to carry all the little kiddos around the body.
Still one of my favorite analogies of all time.
It's great.
Okay. This is not a stupid question. They say to kick it off, stupid question, but what makes someone an endurance athlete?
Hmm.
How far along does one have to run every week to be considered one? I'm just curious because on running podcasts, people often refer to quote endurance athletes. And I think that comes from the literature. Just to like say that, I think people like refer to endurance athletes in the literature all the time, but I'm curious on your takes of what makes an endurance athlete. What does that mean? Is it scientific definitions? Because that is a funny definition. Or
Mhm.
is it a definition that you hold for yourself or that you hold for the community? What is that thing?
Well, technically, like in the Olympic sports, isn't 1,500 meters considered like long?
I think it's anything longer than 2 minutes
Yeah.
So there we
makes
go.
you an endurance athlete. So like wrestling athletes are considered endurance athletes over like power athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very funny definition. I think it's like anything, yeah, again, it's all variable, but I think some definitions say like anything over 30 minutes. Yeah, to your point, it's like you're actually tapping into your endurance when you're running a mile. So
Hmm.
I don't think
Yeah.
there's a really like great answer, but I bet what you're doing makes you an endurance
Like
athlete.
if you're a runner, you've got a runner's body.
Yeah.
If
If you
you do
go
something.
for over 2 minutes, you're an endurance athlete.
Well, and I think that definition comes from like physiologically speaking, like when do you start like tapping into different like
Different energy stores. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Aerobic
Energy
versus
stores,
anaerobic. Yeah.
Mhm.
exactly, like all of that stuff. So that's where it comes from. So yeah,
Mm.
You're
Yeah.
probably an endurance athlete.
it's
Yeah. And
not
if,
like
yeah.
ultra, like yeah, ultra endurance or something. Yeah, no, no, no.
Anything over 26.2 miles a week is an endurance sport. No.
Yeah, you could call yourself an ultra endurance athlete if you race more than a marathon, but yeah, there's no real clear definition, so I would just embrace it. And most people are going to ask you what your marathon is anyways, even if you run a 100 miler, so just, just tell people you're an endurance athlete, it's fine.
No, and I think if like I mean I think if you went to like the ACSM or the whatever like medical association, says for like or the like cardiology association for like how much activity adults should be doing every
Mhm.
week, like that probably also like then would qualify as an endurance athlete, right? It's like how many minutes
Mhm.
of vigorous activity a week or whatnot.
150 minutes
150
a week.
minutes, endurance athlete,
So more than that, athlete.
you know? So I think that it's a very loose definition, but I totally get like how you'd be listening to podcasts being like what does it mean? And it'd probably be a breakdown between, yeah, like sprint and power sport athletes, team sport athletes, which I think are endurance athletes oftentimes, and then endurance athletes. But it's different than a clinical population, and that's probably where it comes from a lot too. Is that are we talking about carbohydrates for a clinical population, or are we talking about carbohydrates for an endurance athlete population? And
Mm.
that's like that's probably the biggest differentiator. Are you talking about normal everyday life, or are you talking about this in
Mhm.
reference to exercising and using your body?
Yeah, and I think too, it's like probably getting confusing with the different podcasts too, right? Because there's podcasts that primarily target track and field, and there's podcasts that primarily target road racers, and there's podcasts that target trail runners, and trail runners can range from running a 5K to 240 miles. And so I
Yeah.
understand the confusion, but I think, yeah, it's tough to try to put people in boxes, especially from like a mileage per week or mileage per run perspective, because most of what you're doing is probably an endurance run. Like if you're running 30 minutes, that's an endurance run, 20 minutes, endurance run, hour run, endurance run, unless you're
Yeah,
throwing in intervals. So it's funny. Good
I
question,
love
though.
that.
Not a
Yeah,
stupid question at all.
not a stupid question. Speaking of, and we don't have to like d dive deep on this, but the question specifically was, how do I start training, um, and trail running just from square one? Like if someone was a brand new runner, trail runner, what would you suggest they go do? Just maybe like that. What's that like that first tip that you would give them?
Oh man. Go for a walk.
You're like if you're,
If
yeah,
you've
like
never ran
starting running like
before,
walk run,
yeah.
Yeah.
If you've
Like,
never ran before,
yeah, run walking is okay. I'd say if you're brand new to training and running altogether, run walking is okay. If you're brand new to trail running, say you've been a runner and you want to go train for and do trail running,
Mm.
it's not that dissimilar from what you've been doing for road running. You're just going to mix in trails. And that could even be like I've heard advice from folks where it's like, yeah, go if you're brand new to going to this trail, go do it for a walk one day. And then the next day or later that week, you can go run that trail and then kind of like build confidence in like that location more than anything. But if you are a road runner, a gym runner, and you are curious in trail, it's just a different surface. You're gonna be okay.
Hmm.
And I wonder if that's part of it, right? That question of like, how does one go from running on different surfaces to stepping into trail? And what does that even mean or look like?
yeah, you could also find a trail running group that might introduce you to trails if it feels intimidating to go on trails by yourself. Because I know that's also a barrier. It's not easy to go on trails and know where you're running and not get scared because you're lost or scared because you saw a weird animal. So you could find a little local run crew that goes on trail runs and start running with them.
Yeah. I like that. We're a big proponent of recommending the group run, or even like this past week, coming to the Shakeout Run was a great example. We had people that were racing, people that were volunteering, people that were just were there, and it was a
Mm.
big deal for some of those folks to be able to come out and go for a short trail run with us, and that was like those are big runs for a lot of people, and it was
Hmm.
a 60-minute run around the flats at High Point, and it was awesome.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then if you're really confused how to get into trail running and you're a big runner and you want to pivot to big trail running and trail racing, you could always get a coach.
Yeah, that's a good point. I
Hmm.
dig it. Okay. We can tackle this question in a couple different ways, but kind of just like a question about sponsorship in general. And maybe it's a reflection on like just like our first entry point into the sport. They said, hello from your hugest fan. We got some competition going on out there. I am curious to hear about how you got running sponsorships in the first place. How'd you get noticed by brands? Was it through specific races or from taking lots of wins? Or did you yourself have to start reaching out? Even though this is not really a possibility for me, I'd love to hear how your careers came to be. Thanks for being so motivating and uplifting always. I guess there's like I would just say that like there's no one way athletes are getting sponsored these days. It's not
Hmm.
like, oh, you won X race sponsorship. But I'm curious, like maybe Hillary, kicking off with you, like the North Face was that your first sponsorship?
First run, yeah, like
First
big.
running sponsorship?
I mean, Scratch Labs was technically like my first or Swiftwick. But like big brand, yeah, like full like head to toe kind of sponsorship. And how that happened, so the other two, Scratch and Swiftwick, was just like in-person meetings. Like I knew them in the community and I had done some like local races. But for North Face, it was a combination of things. It was a big series of like of putting together a big series of wins. like had won the US Sky Running Series, and then also going to those races where North Face athletes were present and, was meeting them and then them putting a good word in for people. And then from there, I kind of had brands like contacting me or asking for my contact info. And then, yeah, that's kind of how, and that's initially how it happened. So definitely a combination of both.
Yeah, and I'd say there are a lot of brands who like there are a few known brands who like you can't reach out to them, they will reach out to you. But for the most part, in talking to a bunch of athlete managers, it's really like they are also needing the athletes to reach out to them. Like you're not like sitting there waiting by the phone for them to call you. It's like not, for the most part, not a real thing unless you're working like one-on-one with an agent. Keely, I guess yours was interesting. Was yours Nike and like working at Nike? No.
My first sponsorship was La Sportiva.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that was after getting second at the US 50-mile champs and then getting like first and second at some other local races that actually in Pennsylvania were sponsored by La Sportiva.
Cool.
And so that's how that all started. It was a pretty small sponsorship, obviously, back then. There was not much money in the sport, and I think they were excited that it was a 22-year-old female who was in the sport because there wasn't that many females either. But then yeah, so Nike happened because I got a job offer from Nike, so I had to end my Sportiva contract, obviously. And I got introduced to the team manager at Nike, and then yeah, he offered me a spot on their team, and it was pretty, again, relatively small at first, and then grew as I had more and more success. So yeah, but then kind of to your point, Corinne, I feel like most brands won't reach out to you once you have the sponsorship from another brand unless they know your contract's up or you're looking because they don't know, like other brands don't know how the contracts work for the other brands. They don't know how long you're contracted with another brand. So most likely, unless you have a crazy performance, there's not going to be huge brands reaching out to you in the middle of contract season. So it's like
Yeah,
an
there's not a lot
interesting
of yeah, there's like not a lot of head hunting going on
thing.
for the
You
most
kind of have
part.
to let people know you're looking.
Yeah. And it was like I think for me, my first contract was technically with in running was with Solomon, and I was effectively like a Solomon ambassador. We had a very small North American team. Um, my contract was not worth very much, and it was a little bit right time, right place, but I also like I think that year I was top four at a golden ticket race, top five at like Chuck a Nut. I won the US 50 mile national championship, um, made the world's team, was the top American at worlds type of thing. So it's like I had to put a bunch of pieces together and got that Solomon contract, and that gave me a little bit more support and was able to kind of I was able to race. I raced Leadville and then I raced Western States and then I raced TDS,
Mhm.
and was able to like have enough notice to then like when someone put me in contact with Adidas, I wasn't a complete unknown entity, but like not having to cold call Adidas was great. It was like someone else putting me in contact with
Mhm.
them. I had a conversation with Wazelle at that time too, and like it was a mutual friend who put me in contact with them type of thing. And so there's a lot of that in the industry as well, where it's like people trying to help other people out, people trying to put names in front of different um
Mhm.
marketing executives within countries within countries and within companies. um but it's like a very interesting, like there is no one formula. It's like applying to
Mhm.
medical school. There's no one formula. Like everyone has these like there are plenty of athletes who deserve in air quotes because I don't know if we deserve anything to be sponsored who aren't, while I I'm on I'm on a
Mhm.
contract right now. And so it's a little bit of luck, generally some results, and then oftentimes having something else that you're passionate about that the brand is interested in.
And I'd say that's probably more of an emphasis now too than it was 5, 7 years ago, is that brands are looking for you to also be a storyteller, an ambassador, a brand advocate,
Mhm.
like have a big social following, which is good, but I think also, distracts from the actual running. And we had Grayson Murphy on a while ago and she talked a little bit about this, but it's like most brands are prioritizing fame over actual running success. And so I think in this market, it's really weird to know like what exactly makes a brand want to sponsor someone. To be completely honest, I think the market's a little strange.
Yeah, it is. And it's like one of those things too where it's like I don't think you can be a regional superstar anymore. Like that
Mhm.
doesn't matter for most brands. Like you have to be stepping out of your region, racing nationally significant races. 'Cause I'll talk to athletes who have
Yeah.
won everything local to them. And I'm like, well, that I'm so,
Mhm.
like that's cool, but like we got to take a step up here. We got to find the right races to be at to put you in front of the right people.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there is also some other, not every brand has got spot for like one superstar who doesn't do social media, but everyone else has to be bringing something else to the table. So that is the way of the world. We're gonna do this next one is mostly a statement, and I can fill in the blanks, and then we got some quick hits, and we'll wrap this show up. Um, we had a question come in and said, I just watched the new Cocodona documentary and was so angry that they didn't even acknowledge that women ran the race, let alone were competitive in it. All I saw were women holding babies and handing men water bottles. So many sports films are like this, and I'm over it. Who's doing this differently, i.e., showing badass women doing badass things, and how do we support them more? That is a great question. The Chase is a great movie. It's a really wonderful film about the front end of the men's race at Cocodona from 2024. But you're right. Like the women that are in that story are the spouses and significant others and crew of the guys running. I felt the same way watching the Jim Walmsley doc that came out 18 months ago. I was like, I love Jess and Jim, and I think Jim's an amazing athlete, but I'm like tired of like all these films about male athletes where like the only female in the film is like the supportive girlfriend, the supportive wife. I think of like Alex Honnold um in his film. It's like Alex Honnold the athlete and the supportive wife. I was like, I want the Courtney DeWalter documentary where it's like Courtney and her supportive husband Kevin. And we need more of that, and we need more stories about all ages and abilities, about representation in the sport. And there are people working really hard on this. And so I do want to plug that there is a project that focuses on Western states this year. It's not counter to Unbreakable 2. Unbreakable 2 is its own thing, but there is a story focused on the women's race and the women's history of Western states, not just this race, but like the elevation of women in sport, kind of using Western states as the backdrop for it. And it's going to be super cool. And then being angry about this is kind of what kicked off here for the women's race last year, and it's grown into what it is now, which is more of a community organization. But we gave out $25,000 worth of grants, that are like out in the community now, and a bunch of those grants are going to film projects, from all over the world, and they're about women, representing their country. They're about mothers. They're about substance abuse. They're about racing in your 60s and 70s. But they all center women, and it's all female creatives. And so just following the female photographers that you like, following the female videographers that you like. When those photographers are tagged on Instagram, like Summer Kreisman, who's been shooting for Brooks this year, follow Summer type of thing. Like follow Emily, I mean, Mike Shit in the Woods was out there as well for Finn, but Emily was the person like behind the scenes there, really making that thing happen. And she's amazing. She's been shooting Tara Dower a bunch. Aisha, who does a bunch of stuff for Hoka, is phenomenal. So it's like when you see those creatives, when you see those creators be tagged in things, like follow them, subscribe to their Substack, subscribe to their YouTube channel, whatever it is, and like support them, share their stuff. Because having women tell women's stories, I think is also really important because like the lens is just different than the dudes that we like love and adore who also are out there making these things happen. But yeah, there is stuff in the works. So I feel your anger, and I just want to tell you that like there is stuff happening out there that's really positive. You guys ready for some quick hits?
Yeah.
Speed round.
Woohoo.
You ready? Keely, you
Let's
ready?
do it.
The brain's all here. What is your favorite sports bra? Is
The Brooks three pocket sports bra. I
that what
have
it's
like,
called?
yeah,
Mm,
pretty sure. Let me check. But it has, yeah, I have like I could put my cell phone in the back and it has like little key pockets on the side.
Nice.
yeah, maybe my current one and I is the rabbit strappy pocket bra because it has the pocket as well because I really like the pocket. It's really helpful. I've never really had a sports bra pocket in the back before, so big
And
fan.
yes, it is called three pocket sports bra.
Nice.
Nice. I've got two favorites right now. It's the John G. Pace bra, I believe. It's kind of the strappy one. Does not have pockets, but it's really comfortable and really supportive, and it just like it fits my back really nicely. And then the other one that I love is I go and I buy from the Lululemon We Made Too Many category.
Mm.
And it's just a normal energy bra. And I think that that's like a pretty good like medium support. I have like average boobs. It's great. I don't know. It's normal to say your boobs are average. I don't know. Okay. What's your favorite place to run? Where's your favorite place to run?
This
Too
is
many choices.
impossible. Oh
One
my
pick.
God.
Pick one, and everyone's gonna hate you for having the wrong answer. Nothing?
The Dolomites
It's a great
and
answer.
Lost Creek Wilderness. Okay.
I'll just say the Columbia River Gorge. It always blows my mind, even though it's in my backyard, and it's more reasonable to say than like Chamonix, which is my second.
We got to get you into the North Cascades,
I
because
know
they
I
are,
do I do need to explore those. I loved the Wonderland Trail too. I
yeah.
did. Yes.
Wonderland Trail is beautiful, over by Rainier, and then north of me is just it's really cool. We've got some stuff like into like the Dockabed zone, also known as Glacier, stuff at the Tiana Way. There's some really cool stuff that kind of bisects the PCT in different ways. So I'm a big North Cascades girl. I'm sold.
Nice.
Hook, line, and
Nice.
sinker. What's your favorite weather app?
I didn't even know there were more than one.
What's your weather app, Keely?
Wonderground.
Whatever the one on my phone.
Oh, weather
Wonder,
app?
Yeah, I guess
Wonderground.
Apple Weather app.
Guys, I have like 5 different weather apps.
I was gonna say the correct answer is windy, but I am not smart enough to use it most of the time. But it's like if I need mountain weather, I go to
Hmm.
windy. It's like what all the ski boys and girls use. And then I'm a Wonderground person because I've been using it since I was like
Hmm.
16.
Hmm. Yeah, I have no clue what any of those are. Good to know.
Oh, look at you learning something new every day. What's your favorite type of running workout?
Ooh.
Oh man, like the ascent, like a vertical K. Freaking
Oh
love it.
God.
Just a nice steady uphill, just
Nice and
death.
steady. Hmm.
Yeah, with some good power hiking. So good.
No. I'd
Gross.
say like the sub 8 minute hill efforts, but like running douche grade hills, like where you're just burning it, running really fast, and it hurts a
Okay.
lot.
Okay. Like give me some reps and sets for that.
It'd be like 5 by 5 minutes, hard uphill, not
Yeah.
hiking. No, no, no.
Yeah, it does make me feel good. I personally, I'm a mixed bag. I've been really enjoying like the flatter, faster running. Same kind of thing, kind of like targeted threshold running, like 6 by 6 minutes, 4 by 10 minutes, but on like flat to rolling surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
Or I got to pull the poles out and I call them scrunning intervals. And they're like generally threshold targeted, but for whatever reason, they just feel so much easier. It's like my ski background comes right out and I just like have the best time ever. But yeah, like 6 by 6 minute, like scrunning intervals uphill.
That's fun.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah. Why are workouts so fun? They're so hard, but they're so fun.
Oh, they cause me so much stress and then I like love them. We love it. Okay. Can we expect 100 more episodes?
Yeah.
We're not going away anytime soon, but
A lot of
Keely's face a
episodes.
commitment to 100 more episodes is also a little bit questionable there. We'll all get fired
TBD.
eventually.
This will keep you on your toes.
Yeah, you never know when we're gonna
Never
end.
know. Or not
Live, live,
end.
live every podcast like it's your last one. Oh my goodness. Okay. Be grateful. Be grateful that we made it to 100 episodes. No, we're gonna continue to chomp out a bunch of these. We've got some cool stuff on the horizon that may make things easier, may make things more difficult. We don't know yet. But we're really excited to do this and bring you 2 episodes a week. I have heard that people would like more episodes, but you know what? You got to give me an extra day in the week if you want that to happen until someone does that for us. You guys are
Can do
stuck with
it.
two
Yeah.
episodes a week.
If you guys can clone me, then we could do. If you can clone all three of us, we can do them. But no,
Yeah,
not right
that'd be
now.
great. There's probably an AI app for that. Do not go there. Don't do it.
Mm-mm.
Bad for the environment. Okay, so if you've been listening this long, you're a true fan. You're a true OG. We are so happy that you've been with us for 100 episodes. That's really, really, really cool. You're an amazing community. You make us show up every other week to do this thing and find more stuff to talk about and to bring to you all the science, the society slams. Um, us giggling and talking nonsense, following along with our lives, which is a big deal because they're our lives, and our racing as we try to figure out how to do all the things that we want to do. So we are so very grateful for you all. We could not do it without partners like this year with Rabbit. Again, use that code. There we go. Trail Bunny 10 over at Run and Rabbit to get 10% off for the rest of the month of May. And well, we got you. Eat a snack, and then once you got all the sugar going to your brain, go leave a 5-star review, share it with a friend, and until next time, we'll see you out on the trails.